Welcome to the Gita in Action podcast. My name is Radha, and I'm here with our family of seekers, and we're reading through the Bhagavad Gita verse by verse, this ancient wisdom yogic text. And we're being transformed every Monday and Thursday when we come here together. It's really transformational reading these texts and talking about its relevance in our lives. And we have a couple events coming up as Conscious Collective. If you want to join us, we're going to Guatemala in November, a women's retreat we'll have there. And we'll be doing all kinds of fun things. We're staying at this super sacred lake in this big bamboo house. And we'll be doing fun things like cacao ceremonies and yoga and Mayan weaving excursions, and also a lot of deep time for connection and reflection. So if you're feeling called to step up your game, come on this retreat with us. And then we're doing pilgrimage in February, which will be the first time I've led pilgrimage. I spent a lot of time in India. And it's time to all go together, and it'll be great. We're going to Rishikesh, Jaipur, and Govardhan. And I believe we'll be in Rishikesh during the big Kirtan festival that they have there. So we'll get to kind of hang out there a little bit, amongst many other things that we'll be doing. So you can message me for more information. Soon we'll get a website up. That's like right around the corner, so stay tuned. And follow us on Conscious Collective or on Instagram at consciouscollective.life. Consciouscollective.life. We're getting our acts together, and lots of things are coming together with the community, and it's exciting. So with that, let's start the Gita. We're in chapter 11, verse 21 is where we're going to start today. But before we do that, Stella, can you say our prayers for us? Oh, you're on mute. Sorry. Let me unmute you.
Om Jnana Timirandasya Jana Salakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Panchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you. Those prayers are so nice. They really, when I hear those prayers, I just instantly feel like relaxed. Like if I'm like a little bit nervous about class or, in my head, it's like you hear those prayers and it just makes you feel so present and so connected to those who have walked this path before us, because that's what those prayers are. They're like prayers of appreciation and gratitude for those who have walked this path before us. And when we plug into that and we plug into that intention, it's like it doesn't become about us anymore, and the anxiety just kind of like lifts. You just feel like sheltered, and so it's so nice to start class with prayers or kirtan or just something that connects you to something bigger than yourself, and in that you feel really held. So that's my experience. Today we're going to talk about something that I think all of us fall victim to. I know I do for sure. And that is like that we get so focused like on what's happening right now, what we're working on, what's not working, what we're trying to fix or control or build, and in my experience, like I'll be like in the midst of that, and then something will happen that'll kind of like zoom me out, or it's just like I'm forced to see the bigger picture. And the reality is, like, no matter who we are, what we believe, how successful we are, we're all moving in the same direction. Like, we all have that in common. We're all moving in the same direction. And that is towards the end of this life. Right? There's like no avoiding that. And sometimes we get so caught in what we're doing like in the moment that we kind of like even forget about that, or what it is that we're doing here. And sometimes it takes like big shifts of life or these big moments to kind of like shake us, to kind of like wake up to that reality, which can be a little bit uncomfortable at the same time. It can be a little bit uncomfortable. But what the Gita's doing here and what we'll read about today is it isn't just showing us that everything ends, which it does, but it's showing us that how we live, and what we're connected to completely changes that journey. So at the end of the day, we're all headed towards the same direction. Every day every day we wake up is a step closer to our final breath. Right? But the Gita teaches us how we live in those moments completely changes the whole thing, including the final destination. So we're gonna go through Arjuna's moment here, where he's really just kind of like put in perspective, and hopefully it helps us put things in perspective as well as we go on this journey with him. So with that, let's start with 21. Let me get my screen going here. Whenever you're ready, Stella.
Yeah. Amihitvam sura sangha visvanti keshid vitaha pranjalayo grananti svastiti uktva mahashri siddha sangha stuvanti tvam stuti bihi pushkala bihi. All the hosts of demigods are surrendering before you and entering into you. Some of them, very much afraid, are offering prayers with folded hands. Hosts of great sages and perfected beings crying, "All peace," are praying to you by singing the Vedic hymns.
Thank you. So what Arjuna is seeing here, so if we remember, Arjuna's on the battlefield and he's having this conversation with Krishna, and Krishna is revealing the universal form to him, which is like all the universe in one form. It's like pretty incredible. And it's at the same time, it's pretty scary. And what we're seeing here is Arjuna's kind of describing the effect on the universe, and what he's seeing is how everyone else is reacting to this. So he's saying all the demigods, they're completely stunned. Some of them are literally afraid. They're like folding their hands, offering prayers. And then you have the great sages and the perfected beings, and they're like trying to like pacify the situation by like chanting Vedic hymns, all peace, all peace. So there's this mix that we're seeing here of awe, but also fear. And now Arjuna is starting to notice who exactly is there, which is everyone, basically. And that's what he's going to describe in the next verse, all the names of these great personalities. And that's where we'll go next. When you're ready, Stella. And we probably don't need to read the Sanskrit of this verse because it's just a lot of names. So maybe we can just go straight to the, if you want.
All the various manifestations of Lord Shiva, the Adityas, the Vasus, the Sadyas, the Vishvadevas, the two Asvis, the Maruts, the forefathers, the Gandharvas, the Yakshas, the Asuras, and the perfected demigods are beholding you in wonder.
Thank you.
That was tough enough as it was.
Yeah, I know. I thought I'd just give you a break there. um, yeah, so this is, this is again, it's not just a few people, it's everyone. All the different classes of beings, they're watching this and they're all looking at this in just total amazement. But what we're seeing too is that it starts as amazement, just like it did with Arjuna, and then it begins to shift to fear. So we're just getting a kind of glimpse of what's going on in the universe as everybody is kind of watching this and going through this same journey of like, wow, this is incredible, and then like, oh my goodness, this is terrifying. So with that, we'll go to the next verse, 23.
Sanskrit or no?
Let's see. Sure, you can do the Sanskrit if you'd like.
Rupam mahate bahu vaktra netram mahabaho bahu bahurupadam bahudaram bahudamstra karalam dristva loka pravyatitas tataham. O mighty armed one, all the planets with their demigods are disturbed at seeing your great form, with its many faces, eyes, arms, thighs, legs, and bellies, and your many terrible teeth. And as they are disturbed, so am I.
Thank you. So now the tone is changing a little. Arjuna saying, "See this form with so many faces, eyes, arms, and those terrifying teeth." He's saying everyone's disturbed, and honestly, so am I. It's kind of like, if does anybody here like scary movies? Anybody into scary movies here? You like scary movies? It's kind of like you go to a scary movie, and at first it's like entertaining. You're curious, and then as it gets more intense, it's in graphic, more real. It's like suddenly you're like a little bit scared, and then what's happening, we're gonna see happening, is that it's not like we're just like observing a scary movie anymore. It's like what he's observing, it's like it's his reality. It's like that scary movie comes into his house and suddenly it's real. And so it's like just becomes like the most terrifying, that you can imagine. So that's where we're going. It's he's not just observing it, it's like he's affecting it, he's in it. Okay, so now we'll go to 24. Are we following the storyline? It's like I want us all to really understand kind of like the gravity of Arjuna's experience here. He's like, he's not just seeing it, he's like feeling it in his body, because he's not just watching it, it's actually happening to him, like in real time. This is he's seeing, this is his environment, you know. Okay, 24. Is that where we are? Yeah, 24. Yeah. Great. When you're ready, Stella.
Nabhas prisam diptam aneka vanam vyatananam dipta visala netram dristva hitvam pravyatitanantatma dritim na vindami samancha Vishnu. Oh, all-pervading Vishnu, seeing you with your many radiant colors touching the sky, your gaping mouths, and your great glowing eyes, my mind is perturbed by fear. I can no longer maintain my steadiness or equilibrium of mind.
Thank you. So here Arjuna is describing what it's doing to him internally. He's seeing these blazing colors, this massive form touching the sky, these wide open mouths, these like intense glowing eyes. And he's saying like, I can't handle this. Like my mind is shaken. I can't stay steady. I can't stay composed. It's like when something is so overwhelming to you that you just completely lose your center. You can't think clearly. You can't ground yourself. Anybody gets so emotional that it's like, this happened to me the other day when I made that mistake at work, and my boss was then like trying to move on talking about things, and I'm like, I'm feeling so emotional right now, I can't like access this logical part of my brain. It's just like, it just like takes over and you can't really think, and you kind of lose your composure. This is where Arjuna is. He can't ground himself. So let's continue this journey with him. Arjuna really goes through it. in the Gita, he really goes through it. And we learn so much from his experience. Whenever you're ready, Stella.
Damstra karalani chate mukhani dristvavai kalanala sanabani disona jene na labe che sama prashida devasha jagan nivasha. O Lord of Lords, O refuge of the worlds, please be gracious to me. I cannot keep my balance seeing thus your blazing, death-like faces and awful teeth. In all directions I am bewildered.
Thank you. So now he's pleading, he's saying, please have mercy on me. He's seeing these fiery, destructive faces. It's not just fire. This is the fire of total destruction. And he says something really telling. He's like, I don't know which way is which anymore. He's just like completely disorientated. Again, it's like, and emotions get so intense that you just lose your footing. So he turns to Krishna and he says, you're the Lord of everything. Please be kind to me. And so here again, what we're seeing happening is it's going from Arjuna just watching it to suddenly it's Arjuna's reality. It's like your worst nightmare becomes your reality. This is the shift that's happening. It's not just watching it from a distance. It's close. It's immediate. It's happening right here. So this is where this story's taking us. He's not just seeing this universal form as something distant and cosmic. He starts seeing it right there on the battlefield, and this is taking the fear to like the next level. That's where he's going with this.
It seems like he's really focused in on those teeth, like those are scary teeth, like they're gonna bite him.
I mean, that's fair, right? And what's going to happen next is we're going to see like people marching into that mouth, people that he knows and people that he loves, like marching into that fiery mouth with those teeth. So imagine, it would be terrifying. I mean, it's really, we can't really even imagine what it would be like being Arjuna in this particular situation. Yeah.
I'm driving, and I hope you don't mind if I interject.
Please.
I'm like hearing you talk about all this, and and I just keep thinking like Krishna's our best friend. Arjuna must be freaking out. Like he just went from learning Krishna's my best friend to Krishna's this all-powerful entity. I mean, I'm sure he knew it like in some concept, but to like witness it personally, it would be like such a freak out moment. And yeah, I'm just kind of sitting with that that duality right now. Like he's your best friend. It's not really a duality, but I think you know what I mean. It's like he's your best friend, but he's also like this fierce, all powerful being. Like it's wild.
Yes, exactly. And that's exactly where we're going next, is because we like to think of God like as just that, like my best friend, or my order supplier, or it's so sweet, and God is, but God is also death. and he has this whole powerful side. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about next. So let's read this. Let's do this last verse, and then we'll go into that conversation, because that's where it really gets real for us. And we can skip this Sanskrit
Yes.
too. We could just do this one.
All the sons of Dhritarashtra, along with their allied kings, and Bhishma, Drona, and Karna, and our chief soldiers also, are rushing into your fearful mouths. And some I see trapped with heads smashed between your teeth.
So this is intense. Like we said, now he's seeing specific people. This is where it becomes very real. It's not like he's just watching anymore. It's specific people. All the sons of Dhritarashtra, all the kings. Even more personal people like Bhishma, Drona, Karna, people that he had close relationships with. They're not just random people. They're people he knows, people he respects, people he loves. And he says, even our side is going in. So like all of the people, not just his opponents, are marching into this death trap, but all of the people. It's not just good guys versus bad guys. It's like everybody's pulled into this. And then it's kind of visual. All these warriors are rushing into Krishna's mouth, and some of them are getting crushed between his teeth. This is it's like graphic and intense and unsettling. Earlier there was like fire coming out of his mouth. Now there's like fire inside. It's almost like a suction pulling everything in. So this is what Mariah brought up, and what I want to kind of bring to the discussion here. It's this kind of, in this moment, it can be kind of confronting for us, to kind of stop and think, like, usually people think of God as like peaceful, and like comforting, beautiful, like loving. This is what people go to God for, like shelter, like to kind of make me feel better. Right? Like if we want to feel something disturbing or intense, we'll watch a horror movie, but we're not going to go to God for that. So it's like, why is Krishna showing this? And this is where the Gita expands our understanding, and so beautifully. It's showing that this reality, it's not one-sided. It's not one-sided. Like we usually experience the world through space, right? Up, down, left, right, what we can see around us. But there's this whole other dimension that's always operating, and that is time. And this is where we started at the beginning of class. Time is what destroys everything. So later, Arjuna's going to ask, who are you? And he's expecting to see something vast in space. But what Krishna is really revealing here is his self as time. He is himself as time. And as we all know, time doesn't spare anybody. Right? Not the good, not the bad, not the powerful, not the loved ones. Everybody is carried forward by time. And so if we really zoom out, look at it, at the material level, life is basically a journey where no one comes out alive. This is terrifying to see and terrifying to sit with, but it's also the reality. Right? And we don't like to think of life that way. We like stability. We like to feel like things are permanent. This is what we crave, because the soul is eternal. So we crave this level of stability and things that are permanent. But the reality is that everything is constantly changing. We see that in our lives, and as we get older and older, we see it even more so. It's like, that day you realize, like, oh wait, I'm not a college student anymore, or I all of a sudden my body is just kind of breaking down. Anybody who has children, it's like, wow, just 5 years ago they were like this tiny little nothing, and now they're like walking and talking and having their own little personalities. It's crazy. Even as we're sitting here, our bodies are changing. Our cells are dying and regenerating. This is the nature of material world. To think anything different is like just kind of fooling yourself. People try to like get Botox or do this or that to like appear like it's not happening to them, but the reality is it is, and we can't run from it. There's not really anything we can do. Everything is in motion. Everything is in flux. So what the Gita is doing here, it's not being dark for the sake of being dark. It's being complete. It's giving us this complete picture, because any understanding of life or even of God that ignores this destruction is only telling part of the story. It's like the feel-good part. But the reality is God is everything, including death, including destruction. And we should know this doesn't mean that God is cruel. It doesn't mean that God enjoys destruction. We know, like Krishna in his original nature, he's described as all attractive, as loving, as full of sweetness. But we should understand that destruction is still one of his energies. It's part of how this material world functions. And if we took the emotion out of it and just saw it for what it is, we would say, yes, of course. Destruction, death, this is part of the material. Everything's constantly changing. There is no stability. We talk about financial stability. No, it could all be washed away in a second, and it is for many people. Any kind of so-called stability. That's what makes it so difficult. You get in a relationship, you think, oh, this is it. This is going to be it forever. And then you find out, oh, actually it's not. And how do I deal? And it's hard because somehow we have this inherent expectation that everything is permanent and is stable, is going to go on forever. Material energy doesn't work like that. And it actually has a purpose. It's not just God being dark. God destroys the temporary to make way for the eternal. That's what all of this is trying to teach us. That's what he's trying to teach us through all of this. Because as long as we're attached to things that won't last, then we're just forever caught in this cycle of birth and death. So this vision is meant to wake us up. It's showing us here very clearly, nothing is permanent. Nothing here can fully hold our hearts forever. This is the reality of material energy. If you're into it, no problem. You can keep just playing it out, desiring something, getting attached to it, getting heartbroken when it goes away, then just putting something else in its place. And we've talked about before, you're just on this like Ferris wheel of like desire, desire, lamentation. You get it. It's not as good as you thought it was, or it goes away. And then you just get another thing to replace. This is just what happens. It's just cyclical. That's okay. Or you can choose to see what's happening right in front of you, see it for what it is, without trying to run from it, without trying to deny it. Act like it's not true. Look away. Just decide not to think about it. This happened to my grandmother the other day. I was at her house, and she's like 89, and she got this phone call from a funeral home about a deal they can offer her, for a grave site or something. And I was like in the other room, and I heard her say, ah, like she was like, ah! And then she hung up the phone, and I was like, Grandma, what was that? She's like, I was this funeral home trying to give me a deal. She's like, I'm just not ready to think about that yet. And it's like, ready or not, it's coming for you. Ready or not, it's coming for you. Right? So if we can choose to say, okay, I see this, I acknowledge this, then we can actually use this life for what it's meant for, right? which is to connect to God, right? Which is to reawaken our spiritual identity and live from that spiritual identity, even in this material world, so that when that time comes, it's not like the end for us. It's just a simple transition. We're still doing the same thing. We're still serving God, but it's our material package is gone. But that's even okay because we're not so attached to it anymore. That's what this life is trying to wake us up to. It's not just dark or miserable for the sake of being dark or miserable. It's like, no, wake up. Wake up, turn back towards me. Stop investing so much energy in that, getting so caught up in that, getting so emotionally vested in those things around you. It's all going to go away anyway. Understand that. And to the degree that you're attached, you're just going to have to keep coming back and going through these ups and downs, right? This happiness, this suffering, this happiness, this suffering, until you really learn that this is the nature of material energy. And there's something that's so much better for you, waiting for you, that is actually eternal, that is actually that doesn't actually change with time, that doesn't decay, that doesn't just fade away. Right? So this is what's meant to happen over time. We're meant to shift our attachment from the temporary to the source of everything, right? To God, to Krishna. So we can see, we're seeing this vision, and we're also a little bit scared, really. It's like, why does he have to be so graphic? Like, literally his teeth are, everybody's marching into his mouth of fire. Like, this is, right? But this destruction, it has a purpose. It's intended to wake us up, intended to make us see. We're all marching. We're all on that path. And the question is, what are we doing? What are we doing on this journey? Right? Because we're all gonna end up there. But are we spending our time in ways that make us feel more connected, in ways that remind us of our eternal identity? So when that time comes, it really does feel more like a transition, and not like you get a phone call. Right? I love my grandma, but even in that moment, I'm like, man, I don't want to be there when I'm 89, where I'm terrified. But that sucks. Let's just say it. That sucks. Right? I just went to a program this weekend with Malati. Malati was like one of the first disciples in this movement in the West. And I asked her this question, because she had just received the news that one of her best friends had passed, had left their body like 2 hours before coming to this program. And I asked her this question, like, how does this make you feel? Like, and she's like, well, like, and I'm like, knowing, that you're next. And I asked her this because I kind of knew what she would say, but I wanted to like hear her say it, and she just like didn't even blink twice or think. She's just like, I mean, I've been practicing this my whole life. How else could I feel? Of course I don't feel anxious or scared. She's like, I'm ready. She's like, when we know the truth, when we know what's waiting for us, how could we be anything else? And that's just like, that's like my goal of life. I mean, one of them. That's like a win when you get to that point where you're close. I mean, you're really close, and you can say that. I've been studying this my whole life. I know what's waiting for me. I have no fear. I have no fear. So that's what this is for us. It's a wake up. This destruction. It's not the final point. It's it's a redirection. It's a way of turning our love from what will fade to what is eternal. And to the degree that we utilize this life, this journey to do that, when we get to that, when we get really close to the end, it's not scary. It's like, we're ready. We've been preparing for this. So, but Arjuna's still on the battlefield. He's seen it. He's overwhelmed. The warriors are rushing in. They're being crushed. They're disappearing. I mean, it's honestly like blood freezing what he's seen, but it's at the same time, it's such a blessing to witness this and to understand this side of God, and that this is real and nobody's immune to it, and really what it's all trying to point us to. So Arjuna's in the moment. He's trying to make sense of it as he's watching it unfold. Does anybody want to share anything before I move to the next? Aaron. Yes, let's hear from Aaron.
Hare Krishna. I just want to share that I feel like I do not like scary movies. I don't even like thinking about them. Um, and like even all of these verses, like they're really terrifying, and I really don't like I have an aversion to it. But I feel like, you know, you took something that's like I was just like rejecting and having an aversion to and made it like so practical because like of course we need to like contemplate that our time here is not forever and um I don't necessarily have an aversion to that. You know, I come from a big family, like I've been to many funerals in my life, like we've really um lived with people passing and live with death. All of us do, of course. Um, but we have annual celebrations of life in my family. Like there's a lot of like tradition around it even. But yeah, I really appreciate the connection of like this like fear inspiring like form of God and also like yeah, that practical connection to death because I really wasn't making that connection. I was just like, yeah, can we go back to them being best friends? Like, can we go back to? I mean, Arjuna's already in a in his own existential crisis, and now he's almost like being put into a totally different one, willingly, but still. But I appreciate like the breaking it down and like the practical aspect of it because I definitely was not making that connection before.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I have similar feelings when I read this section. Like, yeah, let's just go back to where it's just sweet and they're best friends because that's what we really that's what I want. God, I want God to provide me like to make me feel safe and taken care of. And but but this is really important too. And it's also confronting because I think about how many times I pass a cemetery and I like look away because it's like I don't want to think about that. But it's like try passing a cemetery and like what this is what I try to do now actually. I just kind of like look over and just think of all of those people that once lived that were in the very same place that I am, thinking, oh, this life is just going to go on forever. It's just, and then it's just not the reality. Let's wake up to that so that we can actually use this life for what it's meant to be. It's like if you were doing anything and you realize like anything like even you're at a amusement park with your family and you realize like, oh, I only have 5 minutes left. Like, what are you going to do with that time? Like we should have this level of urgency. We don't have a lot of time here. So what are we going to do with it? Like, let's connect to the real purpose of it and utilize it. So when that time comes, we're actually ready. Wouldn't that be such a gift to actually be ready when that time comes? Yeah. And the difference is how are we spending our time now? What are we doing? Are we doing things to reinforce who we actually are, to connect with our real identity as servants of God? Or are we doing things to reinforce the idea that, hey, I'm actually an employee. I'm actually a mother, a daughter. Those aren't bad things. We should do those things too. But we should do them in service to the divine. And in that way, they're reminding us of our eternal identity and helping us get there and helping purifying us, so that we understand that's who we actually are. And then when it comes, it's just a little transition because we know who we are. We're in our body, it might end, but we don't. We go on and we're so connected with that identity as an eternal soul that it doesn't shake us. It's like, okay, no problem. Let's do it. Malti called it a zip line. She's like, everybody's just zip lining down. It's just like, it's just transition right over. Zip line's kind of fun, right? Who doesn't want to go on a zip line? It's like, I'd go on a zip line tomorrow. Yeah. What do you think, Nancy?
Thank you so much. A couple of thoughts. One is, be careful what you ask for. Now, Arjun's like, can you show me your universal form? And all of a sudden, here it is. Here it is. Um, and the other thought well, a couple of other thoughts is that, yeah, I've got to be careful of thinking I've got it. that I've landed, that now I understand everything and I don't need to study anymore. I don't need to come to classes. Oh, I've already read the first canto. I don't need to read it again. Constantly upgrading my life with this message is really important because it is true. And I just had read in the second canto this line that in the purport of verse 4 of the second canto is Srimad Bhagavatam. Everyone is a dead body flapping only for a few days, and yet all the energy of human life is being wasted in the decoration of this dead body. And
Mm.
that struck me as we keep on thinking uh, the only species that thinks, well, you may all leave, pass away, but I'm going to be able to survive this, which is the great narcissists uh, cry, I'm going to win. The only other thing, and I'll be quick, is thinking that Arjun is not seeing himself in those teeth. And so it's also Krishna's giving him the assurance that his side of the battle, even though there are some of his people on the Pandava side are going to survive and that he will be victorious in this battle. So he's
Mm.
also doing that for Arjuna. So thank you so much, Hare Krishna.
Mm. Thank you. Beautiful reflections. Thank you, Nancy. What do you think, Katie?
Hi, Krishna. Nancy, thanks so much for the reminder, like always keep trying. Like once we hear this stuff, like not to think, okay, got it, I'll be ready in however many years or tomorrow, but to keep remembering our position and leaning on each other, and um, keeping steady with our goal of being ready and being chanting the Maha Mantra, And I love how like learning from devotees that death is, you're meant to be like surrounded with devotee friends who are there with you, and it's so much different than this kind of like hush hush fearful culture that we live in more around here in the States. And I was thinking about my grandma passed away when she was almost 97 in 2019, just a few months before I met the devotees. And the last like 6 months, she was in a nursing home, like coming into hospice after we couldn't care for her anymore in her home. And we would go visit her there. And I just was remembering how she was so scared, like when we'd leave at night when they needed to like get her to bed. And she would tell me like and she was a really strong, like person. And she told me how like when they would lower the bed down, like I guess they'd raise it up to do their like get you in your pajamas and stuff, and then they'd like lower the bed down slowly, and and also she was getting confused more and more at that age, and she thought it was like her coffin being lowered, so sometimes she would tell like only me stuff, and I remember saying like just pray, like remember God. Like we also were blessed to have a priest and a nun in my father's family, like his an uncle or great aunt and uncle, which fortunately I remember because they lived a long time. But they all lived on Long Island, so like my grandma was close with my dad's side too. And I remember Sister Mary saying once about how like nuns do this thing where they like when they're like lonely in the nighttime, they like really go into this like time, like a little more intimate time with Jesus or God. And so it just came to me to like be like, think of Sister Mary, and she used to do this thing because we weren't like allowed to stay overnight, and we needed to go home and rest too. Yeah, and I think it's just like I kind of forgot my main point here, but that story came to my mind, and I think it's just so beneficial that we talk about this stuff, and um like Nancy's saying, we can try to keep working on it like day by day and really know who we are, and then we can share it, and how important like our friends and our association is with this stuff. Yeah. All right, Paul.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's so relatable too. Eh? Like it's as the bed's going down, you feeling like you're in a coffin, or you're just. I mean, that's what anybody would feel. That's what's so beautiful about this philosophy is that when we have Krishna in our lives, we're constantly thinking about Krishna. There's just not room to meditate on that. You know, we are thinking about being with Krishna after this, and we know exactly the scriptures are so vivid and what that looks like, what that is. So that's our meditation, and it's like sweet, sweet. What do you think, Narayani?
Mm. Hare Krishna, friend. I was, I remembered that once I heard, it might have been an interview, maybe a podcast with somebody like I think it's a chaplain or somebody, people who guide, especially the ones who are like terminally ill, and in a way we're all terminally ill, but in a hospital. And that person said that everybody who had some sort of a spiritual path, who had something, they some religion or something they were like meditating on, they were less afraid of death. And the people who, say the atheists, the ones who don't believe in anything, they were so afraid, and they were so clinging to their life. And I mean, the person who said that was really terrible to see that when people don't have anything, when they don't have any path where they can hold on to, and what Katie also mentioned, the people around you who are with you and who are also guiding you, then that's really sad if they don't have that. And I once heard in a class that since the soul, the condition of the soul, the natural condition of the soul is eternality, that since the soul doesn't know death, we are in this temporary body. We're afraid of that because we actually don't know it. And it makes so much sense. And that's why I think it's important to talk about that and to really face that reality, because, well, we know it's coming, and it could be sooner than later. But knowing that people die more, they leave more peacefully, their death, if they're really connected, that's one more reason to really stick to that path, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. Yeah, thank you. Do we have any other shares?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, such a great class, and so many excellent points are being made. I'm reminded one thing that, I mean, several thoughts. One thing that Arjuna never didn't want to see or hear any of this stuff. You know, he's doing it entirely for us. I think the two reasons were that so that we could see it, and the other was that in case there's pretenders in the future, that we have something to compare them against. That we know it's not that. But also, I'm reminded of I wish I remembered the title of it, a lecture series that Ravindra Swarup Prabhu gave. It's got to be 20 years ago now, the husband of the devotee who just passed, who you mentioned. And it was something like death and dying, but a lot of it was about like the Middle Ages and how, like, by making death masks and such, and they would make a mask of oneself, a death mask, and then keep it in the room keep it in the bedroom facing them, to constantly be reminded of death, that death is with them all the time. I thought that was really, I'll go look for it, but I thought it was a really excellent series. Also
Yeah,
was struck by your comment about how this is not what we're looking for, this experience, but bhakti, I mean, it is, what we're after. But I'm also remembering like growing up and friends who went to Catholic school. And I think probably the church has changed quite a bit in the lifetime since then. But this experience seems to me that was exactly what my friends were experiencing in terms of God. That it was terror. You know, not just terror of hell, but terror of like the punishment of God, of the awesomeness of the Lord.
Mhm.
So I think this has been a very prominent place in many people's religious experience, perhaps less today than it might have been, many, many decades ago. Anyway, so many thoughts though. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Kalachandji. So
And
nice.
can I have just say one thing too?
Yes, please.
When I watch, I like I always liked scary movies, especially ghost stories and stuff, which I mean seems really strange on the bhakti path, but the ghastly rasa is also there somewhere. But I always saw it as like reminding me that not to be attached because most of those horror stories are either ghosts that are too attached to their house or other people, or the protagonists are too attached to their dead loved ones. And it's like, it's always a story of attachment, like the destruction too much attachment can bring. So I tried to dovetail my prior to bhakti like of that kind of stuff and try to understand it in the bhakti way. And it's not like I constantly watch them, but a good ghost story I do enjoy. But it cements in me like, don't be attached, you will come back as a ghost, or be too attached to that house, or too, attached to somebody that you have unfinished business with. It's like, it's kind of funny. Everything can be dovetailed and thought about with a bhakti lens, which I just think is super great. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. It's funny. There's so many just in life as we go through life, it constantly teaches us these things. Don't be overly attached. Don't, spend your whole life pursuing things like money, prestige, admiration, just constantly we're run into these lessons. But it's like we don't want to really believe it. We're like too emotionally entangled that we can't be objective about it. But the reality is, if that's what we pursue in this life, if that's what we use this human life for, we will suffer and we'll come back again and again, and we won't get out of this cycle of birth and death. It's like God wants something so much more for us. If we're caught in that cycle of birth and death, yeah, death is going to be painful because everything's going to be ripped away from us that we've been just spending our life attaching more and more to, feeling more and more, the proprietor, the owner, the controller. And then it's taken away and we're like, it's like such a shock. Like, bam, what just happened? As opposed to like we're spending our life reinforcing our true identities as servants of God. When that time comes, it's like, okay, the body's gone, but we're still our identity is still intact because that's what we actually identify with, the soul. It's just a transition, just like high school graduation. It's like it's just a transition. It's exciting. We're ready for it. We're ready for what's next. It's not like the end. I mean, it is in one sense, but we're so ready for what's the limitations to be lifted, for us to really just step into life, that we're like that we're ready to go. Death is the same way. If we identify as servants of God, the limitations of our mind and body are gone, and we can just serve God purely. I mean, it's exciting if we're to the degree that we're really identified with our true identity. And where we'll go in our next class will give us two beautiful analogies to see those different dichotomies. Yes. Yes. Any final shares before we leave for the day? So this is a takeaway. Everyone's moving towards the same end. This part isn't avoidable. But what Krishna is showing Arjuna here is that how we live, what we attach ourselves to, where we place our heart, changes everything about that experience. So maybe the question to sit with isn't just where am I going, but how am I getting there? That's for all of us to take
Radha,
away.
I'm sorry, I didn't
Yeah.
chime in quick enough before you just started speaking
it.
again. But it just makes me think of Bhakti Tirtha Swami and how like blessed we are to have examples and know people who were so close with devotees that have already left the body, and hear these stories, like their firsthand stories of like how in all real physicalness he would have been in so much pain, like multiple broken bones, already the amputation, and like being carried I don't know, down to some service or some ceremony, and like he was like, this is the best moment, I'm so glad to be with, like he was like so joyful. And hearing those stories and like the way the examples, and we were talking about this on the retreat, like having these examples that we're so blessed to hear about and have, it's like really powerful. So people who get to experience that we're so blessed to see that, like, oh my gosh, this is real, that people can be there and be ready and be experiencing such bliss with Krishna while they're like, woof, really close, and their body is clearly would be painful. It's just amazing.
Yes, exactly. He transcended his mind body while he was still here. And that's possible. That's possible even for us. That's possible. Thank you. So nice. Well, thank you all. Thank you for coming and starting our week off right. This doesn't have to be like a gloomy start. This can be like a wake up call. Like, okay, let's use this time wisely. Thank you. Thank you all.
Hey, Chris.